Hey everybody, Greg Poole at Junkie Media, bojunkie.com. It's time for another podcast. I know it's been a hot minute, but here we are. We're back from Vegas. Uh, no, we're not going to discuss any of the juicy new location details or anything today. We are going to be joined by a kid who has had a little bit of success this last weekend. I mean, look, for those of you watching this on video, you can already see who it is with his cool glasses and all, but he is at the ripe young age of 18. He's already now won two Vegas titles, which is ridiculous. But look, Vegas titles are dope. Don't get me wrong. However, I think I forgot to turn on my light. Now you guys can look at my shiny head. Um, the but he has been Vegas titles dope, outdoor nationals, yeah, badass. But he has been part of some of the most epic indoor shoot offs the sport's ever seen. I mean, like, so we will get into that, and I can think of three mainly. Um, yeah, it's wild. So anyway, we're gonna get into it. But anyway, fresh off another inside out victory at the Vegas 2025. It's Bodie Turner looking fresh to death up there in Washington. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. Getting
So,
ready for outdoor season.
well, I figured you have probably already shot X10s. You
Yep.
have literally already fired X10s and you've been home for a day.
Yep.
Did you fire X10s the same day you got home?
No. Nope. Give give
Oh,
myself
took a
give
break.
myself a day. Yep.
Took took a break.
Yeah.
So all right, man. So let's get into this. I mean, and look, folks. Yes, we're going to go over equipment. We're going to go over the whole nine yards. But I just want to talk about a few mental things first. Mainly, especially after watching your mom's senior videos of you as a child. Those were pretty epic. You'll never live those,
Yeah.
down, by the way. Those are
Nope.
fantastic. And so, um, talk a little bit about the feeling of winning, not just at a young age, because obviously you are mature beyond your years. I mean, he's not like a 30-year-old man or anything. He's still a kid, but he is very mature. And so talk a little bit about the mentality of winning. The last time we had a podcast, you said something that really resonated with me, and that is, when you're in these shoot offs, you want to get through it until you're at the elite level of the shoot off, basically, till you get down to that's the cream of the crop, and then whatever happens, happens, which
Hmm.
is absolutely great. But the winning mindset in those situations is a whole nother level. And so
Yeah.
now with 660s at Lancasters, like they're for free, outdoor nationals titles, Vegas's, etc. You obviously, the shooting part is there, of course, and we'll talk about that. But talk a little bit about the mental side of winning.
Yeah. I mean, having confidence going into stuff is huge. It's really tough to do when you don't have the confidence. That's why it's so nice to shoot such good qualifying scores because then you know that your setup is dialed.
Good point.
That's a huge part of it for me. It sucks going into a shoot off not trusting your equipment fully. Like this weekend, after shooting those first couple ends, I mean, I might have shot a liner at one point, but I mean, I personally felt like the only way that I was going to lose that is if we go to inside out X's, which we ended up going to inside out X's. Because I
Right.
knew that Matthias had skinnies and I knew that Jimmy had skinnies. So I knew that if they made it, that they were most or had the best chance.
Right.
Um, I mean, there's that mindset of just being able to get yourself to a mindset like that of just having confidence in yourself is huge. And I don't know how many people can do it well. I would say I can do it fairly well, especially when I have equipment like I did this weekend. I mean, I was so confident in it. I knew that if I broke a pretty good shot, that I knew that would for sure be in the middle. I mean, Yeah, those mindsets are tough to achieve, but once you do, and the individuals that can and can do it well, it can be a very vital part of them being able to win consistently.
Absolutely. So we had dinner with the fam, uh,
Yep.
and Joel and Sarah, and we were talking about the mentality of being in that mindset. And look, folks, you can get to the Michael Jordan in the zone or whatever you want to call it. Bodie made a comment after the shoot off, or at some point when they came out to give you water after an hour and a half. You said you felt like you'd been there for 10 minutes.
Yep.
And so when we were having dinner, we were talking about the folks that have been in that particular zone per se. I hate using the word in the zone, but that mentality of shooting arrows in practice, shooting arrows in qualification versus shooting arrows in a shoot off in Vegas. Uh, the 900 and the shoot off are probably a lot more similar than just shooting in practice per se. But talk a little bit about your opinion or your stance on the notion of being able to not only get yourself into that position, not the position to win, but the in the zone in your head, and in those moments versus like when you're practicing, you can be, you're not checking your text messages in the shoot off in Vegas or any of that kind of stuff. So talk a little bit about the different mindsets that you experience, when it comes to shooting in practice, shooting at home, shooting qualifications, then shooting in the shoot off.
I mean, you definitely can't go into them with the same mindsets because you're going to have way more determination in a place like Vegas than you will in other places. Um, I I would say that I almost have less nerves in the shoot off, at least this year for sure, in the shoot off than I do in like the qualification round for Vegas.
Really?
It definitely, yeah. I mean, it depends on the day. Like this year was probably my lowest nerves year that I've had. But the first end was one of the rougher ones that I've had. Like
Qualifications or
qualifications.
okay.
I was, I mean, it's tough to explain it because I would say that I almost have just as much or more nerves in the shoot off, but I have a way higher determination level almost.
Right.
Because in shoot offs, I wish I could aim in shoot off or aim as well as I do in shoot offs. Shoot offs are by far my best aiming times. I don't know why. I don't know what gets myself to aim so well during those, but it's exceptional during those periods.
That's
Like
con-
from practice, yeah, from practice to shoot offs are not even close. Um, I don't know exactly what causes it, but something happens to
right.
what that gets my body in a place to where I can just shoot. I mean, yeah, I mean the best I aimed the whole weekend was during those shoot offs.
So
I
so like when you're at home and you're just practicing, because
hmm
now that you bring that up, I think that's not normal, by the way.
yeah,
To
probably not.
I'm not telling you to seek therapy for it. It's probably a good problem to have. But
Probably.
but like so compare like when you're at home shooting versus obviously qualifications, and then you say that you actually hold better in shoot off. So how much better are we talking? Because I've seen you shoot in practice and it's ridiculous too. And so, you know, like visually explain to us what it's like to shoot in practice as far as your hold goes versus as that ramps up to the highest level ever.
Yeah, I mean in practice, I can typically hold on the 10 ring fairly consistently. In like my practice hold and my qualification hold are probably about the same. The first like end, I'll probably be midway out to the nine or midway into the nine sometimes for hold if I'm nervous.
Okay.
Um, and then yeah, in shoot offs, I wouldn't say it leaves the inside of the 10 ring at all, like not even close. It just kind of comes down and sits, and then I can just Of course, you're going to have that time period where you're going to hold a lot better,
Yeah, yeah.
or fatigue starts to set in. But if I can break that shot in that time period, it typically goes really well for me.
So is there a particular hold that you're looking to achieve in practice at home that you know is going to correlate to that in a shoot off, or is that just, I mean, is that just luck, or I mean,
Not really that I've tested. I mean, I always want my holds to be um controllable, but when I start to shake a lot, I want it to be faster speed. I don't want it to be super slow. There's I mean, really the only way to test it is to hold a shot a really, really long time
right,
and with a lot of tension to see how fast it'll actually move. You can always get a bow's gonna aim pretty fast when you are nervous and shaking a lot, just how your arm moves.
right,
Of course, the more weight you throw on it, the slower it will be, but there's always going to be a too light and there's always going to be too heavy,
right.
and that completely depends on the bow and the person.
Sure. And so like when you're like, not now, of course, but back in the day, I pretty much come to realize that in practice, if it's holding absolutely perfect in a tournament, it's going to be loose because I'm kind of amped up. So in practice,
Yeah.
I would find myself wanting it to pull me down a little bit.
Hmm.
A lot, just pull me down a little bit because then in a tournament, it would hold better for me. Have you identified any characteristics like that?
I wouldn't necessarily say it. I mean, I know that if I'm having a day where it's dipping quite a bit, I mean, you're always going to have your better aiming days, your worse holding days, and there's certain stuff like food and what you eat, when you eat it, stuff like that, that definitely matters. And I've kind of started to try and figure that stuff out a little bit.
Right,
I don't have it down to exact science, but I know that there's certain foods that definitely don't work.
right,
I wouldn't say there's any super certain characteristics. I mean, I know that once I'm in a shoot off, I'm gonna have enough adrenaline to where I'm not gonna have fatigue really.
right,
Like for like shooting for a long period of time, I'm not gonna get fatigued for that. I might get fatigued for just holding a shot.
right,
Which, I mean, you get, of course you are.
right.
But just for longevity of shooting, I'm gonna have enough adrenaline to where it's not really gonna matter. If anything, it's gonna get better. But I've noticed for me, like when I'm practicing, there's time periods of good hold and there's time periods of bad hold. So for me, those first like 15 arrows, like 9 to 15 arrows, typically hold really well. And then I can shoot. Then there's like my middle section of practice, which can't give you an exact number on arrows, but it might be after 30, might be after 60, might be after 100. But once that fatigue starts to set in at like the end of the day, my hold can get really good because the bow almost feels a little bit heavier sometimes because you've been shooting all day and you're getting tired to where it'll tighten up. But then like that middle range of like maybe from your first game to your second game, I might hold better on my third game than I
Gotcha.
did in my second, stuff like that.
It's
So I'm kind of trying to,
that archery pump.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, recently I've been trying to kind of figure that out. I've been finding that like shooting like 15 arrows pretty good for me. It's like right before. It's like right before I shot the shoot off, we had our little back alleyway archery range that we got to go shoot in. And I shot like 15, probably 15 to 30 arrows. And that felt really good. I never really had any hold problems there and
Right.
went out. I figured out that a 27 hole is about the same size as a 10 ring at that distance. At the distance we were at was, which is probably 4 or 5 yards.
Okay.
So I could kind of practice to see what my aim was doing, and it seemed to go pretty well for me. I was happy with how it was aiming there. I was. Then I went inside, and it was pretty much the same as it was out there.
Nice. Now, so you mentioned, let's back up to food a little bit because I eat a lot and I like to talk about food. But so you said that there were some things that you've eaten that definitely don't work.
Yeah,
What are those?
salads. Just, I mean, if you just have salad, I never it. Yeah, the worst, some of the worst holding days I've had at tournaments because I used to really like Caesar salad stuff like that, and I might have just like a Caesar salad, something like that at dinner, and that would never really go well.
Salads are never good. But anyway, that's all right. That was not the answer I was expecting, folks. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I was not ready for that. I was
Yeah, one thing that I don't know if you'll expect this or not. So, because I mean, I have all my sick nausea, stupidness,
that was coming
and so
next.
I'll have that. So there's days where I like won't eat. It's a lot better than it used to be, a lot better. But um, one thing I've noticed is, I mean, I eat a lot cleaner now. That could definitely help leading up to it. But some of the days where I don't eat anything, honestly, I've held really good those days, and sometimes I might only like have some sugar, like some type of little candy or sweet, something stupid.
Right,
But that will kind of give me just enough energy to where I don't have way too much to where I can't hold and not enough. I would say honestly that has worked better at sometimes than just eating like a bunch of protein.
right.
If I'm having days where I can just eat, normally have like 2, 3 meals a day. I will mainly just eat protein and that'll work well. I don't load up on carbs, don't load up on a bunch of vegetables. I mainly just
All right.
have more protein based things. And then on some of the days where I don't eat anything, I mean, some of those like just little sugary candies or whatever, just eat a couple of them. Not don't eat a whole bag, don't eat a lot, just have some, which gives me just enough energy to get sometimes the hold that I'm looking for.
Right. So now, and for those of you that are just catching up, um, Bodie has historically had himself the um, replacements or whatever it is, Jamie Foxx throw up before the event scenario happening. And he says it's been getting better. And so, what I wanted to ask is, does your shoot, so obviously if you're shooting at 9 in the morning, you ain't eating breakfast.
Yeah.
Um, and so, does your shoot time determine whether you can eat in the morning? So, if you're shooting at 3, can you eat breakfast without any issues?
I'm still not really a huge breakfast guy.
Okay.
Even at home. Like if I'm on the weekend, I've been waking up earlier, so if I wake up like 8:30, might have breakfast at like 10. But I'm never really just a wake up and eat guy. It's a wake up, mess around for a little bit, and then maybe we'll make some breakfast.
Okay. Okay. So if you're shooting for score that day, generally speaking, and you're not going to be shooting at 8 at night, but so you just kind of are just breakfast is not your gig anyway, and especially at an event, it just makes it even more problematic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I don't remember which day it was. I walked downstairs to eat at the Paris, and I was by myself that morning, so I'm like, it was like 8:30. I'm like, "Yo, kid, where you at?" He's all
Hmm.
in bed. I'm like, "Oh,
Yep.
you lucky son of a." And I'm like, "Hey, let's grab some breakfast." And then literally after I send the text, I'm like, "But Bodie can't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
That'd be a waste of $40." But
Yeah.
so, all right, got you there. So, what foods have you you did say protein, which makes total sense. But I can remember way back in the day, Chance Bobev told me that shellfish for him the day before was did not help him hold the next day. Um,
Hmm.
so have you found any foods particularly that, specifically that do that you have seen a good response from the next day when it comes to holding?
Stuff with kind of a fairly balanced carb to protein, like some might have a hamburger, something like that. The only thing I ate the day of the shoot off was I went to Subway and I always get the same thing at Subway. I got a sandwich with white bread, ham, mayonnaise, pepperoni, and lettuce.
Ham, pepperoni, and lettuce.
Yep. And
It's not quite a
then that
salad.
was that was the time where I was kind of figuring out that it's good to have some sugar. So I got a cookie as well. So I had a couple bites of a cookie, and then I had like half of a Subway sandwich. So I had 6 inches of a Subway sandwich.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So let's talk about this now. You won your first Vegas at the South Point. Um,
Yep.
and you were like what, 14 at that time?
I just turned 15. I was
Oh,
15
that's
in a
right.
day.
Yeah, like a day. So you
Yeah.
were 15 and you were one day over 14. And so you had that experience, and this is more venue related. Look, folks, the facility was the facility. I'm going to be making another podcast about this, kind of giving some thoughts on that. But, I think the NFA crew did great to put it all together. They didn't have a lot of time. And so, but what I wanted to talk with you about was shooting off for the win in the arena at South Point versus the PH Live Theater. Obviously, lighting, they light up at the South Point pretty well, but just talk a little bit about the different experience of, winning the same event, but in those two different buildings, pluses, minuses, observations.
Yeah, I mean, it's the practice range is one thing. It's nice to have the practice range. It's nice not to have to shuttle back and forth. Yeah, I mean,
Whoa,
our
whoa. Shuttle back and forth? What do you mean?
yeah, because I mean, we had to shuttle back and forth from the from Planet Hollywood to the Horseshoe.
You didn't walk?
They just no. I asked if I could just walk because it's honestly a faster walk than it is taking the bus.
Right.
Um, like yeah, I'll be fine walking down the strip for 3 4 minutes.
Or less.
Yeah,
So they actually put all the shooters, I'm assuming,
on
with your bows on a
yeah
bus
on a
to
bus.
to drive a block.
Yeah, and that would take like 10 minutes of
Okay.
driving.
I heard some
The
about a shuttle. I just didn't realize it was that.
yeah, so we got shuttled there at noon. We were supposed to meet at like 11:30 in front of the Horseshoe. So we got shuttled there, or no, yeah, so we got shuttled there the first time. And so we got shuttled there. We went and did our little practice shoot thing because they also needed to figure out how to run it. Um,
Okay.
because of yeah, kind of figuring out where to put the archers because we were gonna have to have two lines because they couldn't fit enough bales.
Right.
So yeah, we got shuttled there. We did our little practice thing. They showed us around, and then we got shuttled back, and then we were supposed to get shuttled back there at like 4. I got shuttled back there at probably like 3:45. So and then, well, the thing is, because I'd walked over to Planet Hollywood because I got to leave my bow there, which most people didn't get to do. Got told we can leave our bows outside or take them with us.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I'll take mine with me, and then I was able to leave it there inside,
Okay.
which was very nice. But I was one of two people that got to do that.
Why is that?
There just wasn't room because we all walked in and there's a little like back room and we all took our stuff off and put our bows there because we figured that's fine.
Right.
But they said we couldn't do that. Um, and then yeah, we got so I had walked back to Planet Hollywood down the strip with some friends, and I was like, oh well, I'll just go through the front. And I'm like, oh, I don't have a ticket, and
Right.
none of these people know who I am.
Right. It's not like you're
So
Britney Spears pulling up to the front like, I'm actually
yeah,
in this.
yeah. So that did work. They were gonna let me in, and they gave me a guy gave me a ticket at the front. But then I'm like, it's not a VIP ticket, and I need to get through the VIP section onto backstage.
Good luck.
So I was like, screw it, I'm walking back. So I just walked back, walked through the Paris, walked through the Horseshoe, and then we are supposed to meet at like 4 in the VIP practice range. Went up to the VIP practice range. They're like, you're supposed to be downstairs, or you can go downstairs. I'm like, I thought we are supposed to check in up here. So I went back down, got on the bus, went to Planet Hollywood. We got in the back, and then I went and sat in the VIP section for like 45 minutes. The people tried to not let me get in there. But I'm like, I'm just trying to drop stuff off because I still had my sandwich and a water bottle.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to just leave this back here. My mom was sitting down there. I'm like, well, I'll just go down there and give this to her. And then I
Well,
sat down.
well, and you couldn't leave the sandwich with me because I'd
Yeah,
ate.
because you couldn't. Well, yeah, that too. But you couldn't bring anything in through the front.
All
Couldn't
right.
bring any food or liquids in through the front.
All right.
So I was like, all right,
But if
well, I can't do that.
you could bring a coffee.
You
So
could bring a coffee.
yeah,
Okay.
right up your alley.
Yeah. And yeah, so I just brought that into the back and then brought it down to VIP there. And then hung out down there and then went and got my bow and shot like 15, 30 arrows at the practice range. Um, back in the back alley. That was fun.
Right.
It was nice that like nobody used it. Me and Gaius were the only two people out there.
Really?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I was expecting it to just be because there's only like two or three bales back there, I think. Maybe
Okay.
four. I think it was, yeah, it was like two or three, I think. And went down there and it was just Gaius standing back there in the back alley. So I was like, all right, well, I'll go shoot with Gaius.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was it was interesting.
Team Young Buck.
But yeah, having to shuttle back and forth was kind of annoying,
Well,
especially when they needed three bus rides just to get the archers there.
how big of a short bus was you on?
I mean, it wasn't like a bus. It was like one of those things on the. I mean, it probably fit 30, 40 people typically, but that's not counting bows that are taking up a seat or two at minimum.
Right, right, right.
So we would only fill it a quarter, a third to half the way, if that.
Well, I mean, I would imagine with it being on the strip, and I know there's been a lot of scuttlebutt about that, and I saw people walking on the strip with their bows just out normal. I understand it's the first time. Caesars has policies and they've never experienced this before. So I can't speak as an authority on this, but I can imagine next year it'll probably be a lot smoother. Um,
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah. And so, I mean, they had to learn that, we're not a bunch of thugs up in there with weapons. We're a bunch of archery nerds up in there with bows. And
Yeah,
so not a big deal there. So all right, so let's talk about kind of the walkout was dope. They had the whole thing going on there with the lighting and stuff. So talk a little bit of, was there any different feel for you from walking out at the South Point to walking out at the live theater?
I mean, it was cool. I probably like the walkout better at the South Point. They definitely have better like pyrotechnics this year,
Right.
but I think it would have been cool if they had that at the South Point. Um, yeah, I mean, the VIP section got to sit below the stage, so I don't know how well they could even see the targets.
Okay.
Um,
All right. So let me explain. For those of you wondering if you've ever been to an actual concert with like an orchestra and such, the VIP was in what's called the pit. Now,
yeah,
this pit was not covered. A lot of those pits are covered acoustically, whatever. But what he's talking about is the VIP section was in the pit, where the orchestra usually goes down in front of the stage. So, yes, technically the VIP section was sitting probably, well, at least 5 feet below where the archers were standing. So
yeah,
I didn't get down there, so I can't say, I can't speak on the view or any of that stuff. But just to elaborate on what he's talking about, because a lot of people would probably be like, "How the hell does that happen?" The stage is elevated, the pit is lower, and then the stage is actually level with the first row of seating that then goes up.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah. So I mean, I definitely like that stage better to shoot on, but we had to run two lines,
Right. There was
which
30.
sucked.
There was 30 of you.
Yeah, there was. But the thing is, that part kind of sucks because if you're shooting second, which all the top guys had got to shoot second, would have been kind of nice to shoot first. Um, I mean, we walked out and like, oh shoot, there's 10 people that just missed.
Ah,
When typically you're shooting and then
that's
you can just
fair.
shoot and then look after. But when you're walking out, you're like, oh, that's a nine, that's a nine, that's another one.
I,
Um,
it's
it that could get in your head. Didn't
that
really bother me. I just kind of saw it as less competition.
that is so funny you mentioned that because I was sitting with Brady Ellison and
Hmm.
not having ever been in one of those shoot offs, I don't know, but I turned to Brady and I asked that very question. I said,
Hmm.
Brady, in this situation, are the second archers gonna, they'll have no choice but to eyeball those arrows?
Yeah.
Is that an advantage or what? And Brady kind of goes, probably wouldn't be great.
Yeah. I mean, it personally didn't mess with me. My mental game's fairly good, and I've been in a couple of those now.
Right.
I mean, I just saw it as okay. Well, I mean, if I shoot three, I get to go past all these people.
Right.
But I mean, once it got down to one line, I loved it. Like it was really cool. The lighting was phenomenal out there. Um, it was cool to shoot on that stage. I enjoyed it. Everything was good about it. I really liked the big screen up that you could see. That was kind of cool.
Right.
Um, like on my last one to win it, I couldn't tell in my binos because my air was covering it, but when I looked up, I could tell on the big screen that it was inside out.
Right.
Um, so I mean, even if there's certain people that couldn't see overly well, the big screen made it so they covered it well with that. They
The
used that well, which was nice.
yes, the big screen was dope. Um, do I wish who was ever in the box punching the buttons would have been a little bit more on the ball with some of the target acquisition stuff? Yes, but
Yeah,
probably they probably never done that before. So, and I don't know as if and once again, folks, I'm just making this up. I've been in this situation. Well, August was in this situation. I just told him what I wanted to see, but um, I don't know as if anyone gave that person necessarily the guidance to say, okay, here's what people are going to want to see. So I'm giving them a big pass on that. But yes, the screen was dope. That thing was
yeah.
4K, son, and it was
Hmm.
50 feet wide. So let me ask this: acoustically,
Hmm.
the ear holes, how much different? Because obviously the arena is wide open, and I don't know if there was more or less people in there. We'll just call it the same because
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But from your point of view, being down there for it, um, going from the arena, which is all wide open, to a literally acoustically designed room, like that
Yeah.
room is made to be acoustically badass. Did you
Hmm.
notice any difference in the sound, the feedback from people, or any of that? Or up, because I say this, but it's not designed to sound great for people on stage. It's made to sound great for people in the audience. So,
Yeah.
did you notice any difference in the audio side of it?
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I don't really pay attention to how much stuff sounds when I'm shooting.
Okay.
Um, I couldn't really give you a good answer on that. When I'm up there, I'm just shooting.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's absolutely fair. I mean, I know for me, the audio in the live theater was spectacular, which
Yeah.
considering there's real concerts there, it had better be.
Yeah.
So and folks, we're just gonna start getting into all the shoot off and the inside outs and all that now. We will talk about equipment. So relax. So the shoot off starts and yeah, there's 30 of you. And look, folks, I'm just gonna say it. Had the dude in the flannel shirt with the visor made his way onto the final group, I think everybody in the crowd would have been chanting Joe Dirt. Um, I don't know who he was, but it was great to see a guy like him get out there. He ended up, I think, having a misfire or something, shot a zero, but whatever, whatever. The story of the dude in the flannel with the visor was pretty epic. But when it got down, as Bodie pontificated in the last podcast, get down to the elite of the shoot off and see where things fall out. When it got down to the elite of the shoot off, it was pretty much who you would expect to be there. Um, and so as things started to pare down, now it went 16 ends. We're not going to talk about the inside out ones yet. I think that went two or three. But once the shoot off got started and you started to see things get pared down, how long does it take you in that shoot off scenario to be like, yeah, things are we're good. Things are rolling. Just got to do my thing.
I mean, probably after I get past that, I'm like five.
Okay.
After that, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a good one.
Okay, so after N5, you're like, well, all systems go, hammer down.
Yeah.
So as thing, then obviously as normal, once we went to X scoring, there was a pretty good knockdown of numbers. Folks started, falling off and stuff. So when it gets down to you, Matthias, Mikey, Chris, and Nico Gerard, who he shot spectacular, by the way. Good.
Hmm.
He's a super nice kid.
Yeah. Super good, dude.
Yeah. Once it got down to you guys and Bruce, and we are going to talk about some of your other shoot offs as it pertains to this part of it. I mean, the longevity of the shoot off. We'll get into that as well. But once it got down to you guys, did you start having flashbacks of the Rushmore Rumble? Did you start having any thoughts whatsoever about, oh, here we go again, a protracted, super long shoot off, or was it just not something you were even caring about?
It wasn't really something like when we went to shoot off for Inside Outs, you could have told me it was end like 8. I mean, I had no idea what end it was. I mean, I knew we'd been going for a while. Like they told us it'd been an hour and a half.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. Well, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
It was nice they brought us out water. That was handy. But
You're
I
like,
mean,
can I get my other half of my sandwich?
yeah, pretty much. That was pretty close. But yeah, it was I mean, I knew that it was going on a while, but I mean, I really had no idea exactly how long or what end.
Do you even care if it goes 69 arrows like the Rushmore Rumble or like
No, it definitely would have went more. This one would have been way more than 69 arrows, I think.
right.
I mean, I would have guessed if we were just shooting, I bet it would have went 35 ends.
That's
I,
scary.
I felt I felt like I wasn't gonna miss.
Right.
I had the exact same mentality at that point that I did at the Rushmore Rumble to just where I was so confident and everything was so perfect that I felt I could have gone as long as it needed to.
Right. And so when Bruce started, I want to say joking, but it wasn't a joke because he ended up doing it. And folks, for you wondering, it is in the rules and it does say at the shoot's discretion.
Yep.
Oh, don't don't be flaming on the internet about Bruce making shit up. He didn't make shit up. It's in the rules.
Yep.
Now we can discuss the whole at the shoot's discretion thing, which seeing how well this went, it probably will just be a set thing next year. But once Bruce started hinting around at actually doing the inside out thing, what started going through your head?
That I'm screwed because there's two or three guys with 23s and a couple guys with X10s.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so Nico Girard from France, who took silver in the World Archery Indoors, was shooting 23s, so he was still shooting those. And obviously, Matthias, Mikey was as well, I think. And then
Hmm.
Matthias had small arrows. Chris Perkins and you were pretty much the only one that rolled the big logs the whole time. Um,
Yep.
and so let's talk about shot process. And this is something that I don't think a lot of us like. Look, I can draw back and say, I'm going to shoot an inside out all I want. The reality of that, however, is a lot of times something different, and I'm just trying to inflate myself. But for you, when you know inside out is the unit of measure, is there
Hmm.
any difference in your mentality? Is there any difference in your shot process? No, probably not shot process, but aiming. What in your mind makes you think this will be a good shot to fire versus not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be a little bit different. Like if you, it would be great to be able to go back and watch it. I still haven't even got to watch my Vegas shoot off. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, going from shooting just X's, I mean, like you said, it's just a different unit of measure. So for me, it's just a different measurement of how good the shot has to be. I can break an X anywhere in the 10 ring, and I know it's going to be an X. I can't I can't break a shot anywhere in the 10 ring and expect it to be inside out.
Right.
So I mean, if you go back and watch, if you could, if you go back and watch the shoot off, I mean, you can see my two ends leading up to it, where I was just making sure that my sight was dialed. Because I
Right.
know that I could break shots in the middle. My hold was really good. I knew that I was going to be able to just break shots close to where I wanted or where I wanted every time. Um, but yeah, in those two ends, I shot really good. It definitely tightened up for me. And then once it went to, so none of us knew what was going on. For me, like Nico shot his first inside out X
Right away.
and right away, and I missed mine, and then Matthias missed and Chris missed. And I gave him a fist bump, like, congratulations, dude.
Right.
And
Oh, you
then,
thought it was one arrow?
yeah. So
Oh,
I'm like, congrats, dude. And then I
oh.
see him knock another arrow and draw back. I was like, cool, I get to shoot another one. Like I almost put my bow stand on and put my bow down after I shot. I had no idea.
I hadn't
So I'm
even
like, oh,
thought of that.
I'm like, sweet, I get to shoot more. I get two more chances at this.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, every other inside out thing I've done, you shoot and then you go up and look at it, or they go score it, and then we start again. So
You're
I shot and I missed. I'm like, well, I lost. That was a pretty
not,
good shot.
you're not wrong. I hadn't even
Yeah.
thought about that. Holy shit.
Yeah. So I mean, I had no idea. Like I expected inside out X's to be like a closest to center thing. So that's why I was always so against the inside out thing. Because I always thought it was just going to be one arrow. They never clarified it. We were talking about it upstairs. Jimmy knew the rules. That's why he had X10s. I mean, I had
I,
them,
I hadn't even thought of that.
but
I literally hadn't even
yeah,
that. That is such a good point. And
yeah,
that actually makes the inside out in Vegas even better.
it makes it reasonable.
Oh, good word, young man.
Yeah, because like that's why I hate closest centers. One's because I seem to lose them every single time this year, but two, because an inside out isn't there is skill involved, but it is more luck than skill. If you give me three arrows, I'm probably going to shoot inside out X on one of them.
Speaking of that, young man, I saw what you did
Where
when it went to inside outs. I saw what you did.
or what?
Yeah, look at you grinning. So
I don't know what I did.
this is not illegal, folks. None of this is illegal. So save your email. But I saw you put your target over your old target. So there was,
Yeah, so I didn't know that was a I didn't know it was a thing.
all
I
right,
saw Nico do it, and I was trying to figure out how he did it,
all right,
and I couldn't figure out how he did it. He had like cold quarters and stuff like that. I'm like,
right,
screw it. I don't want to be obvious and just tear my target out from behind the other one.
right. So,
Because they wouldn't let me. You can't have two targets up. You have
right,
to only have one up, which is fair.
it's totally fair. But having two targets makes it a little bit more rigid and
Yes, which would be
potentially
nice.
could potentially mitigate a kick out. But so I was watching and I was like, hell yeah. I thought it was genius. And then when they
Yeah,
made you take it down, you had another smart move.
yeah. Well, so I knew that I could find the one because I shot an inside out X on the top target, and that's how one of the reasons Nico kept shooting inside out X on the top target because they put it over the same hole four or three or four ends.
Right.
So that helped. Because then you can shoot on the edge of the hole and it'll still suck it back into the hole.
Right.
Um, and that's how I've shot some stupidly clean targets
Well, and
because
what
when you
else?
just have one hole, you can shoot a half shaft X and it just sucks it back in.
Well, and another thing that helps that is them big old long competition archery products points.
Yeah, which definitely helps.
So
But so then after I couldn't figure that out because I'm not the brightest at times, um, I was after that I was just trying to find the flattest part of the bail.
yeah, you actually
Um,
rotated your target a little bit. I thought it was genius.
I did on one because
Yeah.
I I mean if you those bales kick so bad, that's one of the reasons. Another reason you can't have it one arrow because
Right.
I can pipe a shot dead center, and then it can look like I shot a half shaft six with where the veins are. I
Right.
have picture proof of those ones.
Oh
I
yeah,
took a picture of Louis. That sucker's dang near up off the paper.
it's true. It's true.
And yeah, so I mean that's one of the things on those. But I end up just trying to find the flattest parts of the bail because I knew then it wouldn't kick my arrow quite as bad because it hit a flat surface.
Right. Uh,
But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a matter of figuring stuff out. One thing I kind of would like to see is you have to stick with the same arrow the whole time.
well, that is definitely going to be a topic of conversation. I mean, look, I appreciate and I respect Matthias's position of no risk, no reward.
I
I
100%.
I
I
respect
would like to if it's available, I might do it next year.
right,
But yeah, it's just a matter of
right.
what
And
people think
so
of it.
so folks, Matthias Fullerton switched to X10s when they went to Inside Out, which under normal circumstances is a massive advantage. Now, that does raise a whole nother podcast worth of questions on the tune, same bow, or are you just throwing them on there and sighting them in? I mean, changing, page changes rests. And so that opens up a plethora of tomfoolery of questions on will that be the perfect tune for the X10s? That aside, just shooting the X10s is going to be a huge advantage. It did not work out for Matthias, but mad props to him for going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I mean the one thing about it is I mean the whole X10 and 9 ring are now a 9.
right,
So once you get to that point, like if you get a half decent mark, it's gonna be in the 9 ring.
right,
And then you can adjust. Like I fully expected that thing to go one end. I expected him to probably miss the first one, give it a couple clicks, and then pipe the next two.
right,
I was like, all right, well, me and Chris are screwed at this point. We got a guy with 23s that's pounding, and we have a guy with X10s that's pounding.
right.
Luckily, he I mean not luckily, but he wasn't quite able to get it perfect, which like you said, it could have been a tune thing because they're probably not gonna shoot
Yeah,
perfectly.
hard to tell. I mean, I'll ask him. But yeah, and it is luckily because look, of the four guys who are up there shooting big arrows, 23s or 27s, I guarantee you, Chris and Nico thought the exact same thing you did when Matthias knocked an X10.
Yep. I was like, well, that was fun.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Time to shoot off for second and third, guys.
right. Historically speaking, it's what y'all are gonna do. So
Yeah.
so as that goes along, and I thought it was interesting what you said about Nick when Nico's first arrow was inside out. I was like, you have got to be shitting me.
Hmm.
I saw you give him a fist bump. It never dawned on me that you were like, oh, closest, inside out.
I just wished him congratulations on winning Vegas, pretty much. Like
Yeah,
that's fully what that fist bump meant.
yeah,
And then they shot through, and I saw him draw back again. I'm like, oh, I guess I should probably knock another arrow. I guess I get to keep shooting.
right. Yeah, that part was epic. So let's kind of fast forward, not very long, of course, to that last end there. Um, the end before the last, you had a couple that were super close, and I loved your reaction
Oh,
to it. And that's
you want to
something.
see a close up picture of one?
Yeah, let's see it.
Hang on.
Which one is this?
This is the how many ends did we go inside out? Three?
I think three.
Yeah. So I shot an inside out X, I think on the top one, and that was the one right before it.
Oh,
So I almost shot two on that one.
that would have did it.
Yeah, by about maybe 2 millimeters.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, what do you do for that? You can't click for that.
No, I shoot good, but I don't shoot inside out X every time type of good. So
All right. All right. So as you seem to react favorably once you looked up at the screen at your top arrow on the winning target. Um,
yeah.
the commentators on the live feed, of course, one in particular was saying, "No way, it's a 9." They didn't really show on the big screen. They didn't show it quite close enough for any of us in
Hmm.
the audience to legitimately see me being a retard. I got 2.5 hours from home on Tuesday and forgot my binoculars. So I was using these old eyeballs. So I was really screwed. Um,
Yeah.
and so on the next, I think it was the next arrow you shot and it hit the line and you were like, oh, So when you walk up close, you realize, no, that's a wrap. Um, and then
Well, I didn't really. I didn't know until I mean Nico's was stupidly close. Like it was I would it was definitely touching the line. It was one of those ones where if you pull it out, they would probably pull out yellow. Like it was so close
nice.
where honestly it almost could have probably gone either way.
Gotcha. Yeah. So once, and obviously we can't hear, Bruce holds the mic behind him for good reason.
Yeah.
And for any of you that might think that we need to hear what the officials and Bruce Cole are saying, no, we don't.
It'd probably just confuse us all.
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't get to listen to, all of the referees and umpires in professional sports when they have their little private huddle meetings. We don't need to be listening to what they're talking about either. But um, what you can obviously hear what they're saying.
Hmm.
So what I thought was interesting is you didn't necessarily react before Bruce walked over to you and grabbed your hand and walked you in between the pyrotechnics so you didn't get caught on fire when shit went off. But uh,
Yeah.
you didn't necessarily react before Bruce came over to you. So talk.
I had no idea. I was
Okay.
almost expecting us to shoot another end.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, I
Like
thought,
I knew that mine was, but I didn't know if his was.
right. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No, and I mean, I thought that was pretty cool the way he walked you out the front and announced it and all
Hmm.
that. So, I don't know if an emotional dump is the right word or an emotional but what's this is now your second and you're 18, but what's that feeling when the realization hits you, we're done?
I mean, I'm definitely excited, but I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say that it really ever like hit me. I mean, I was excited, of course, but it wasn't like a jump up and down, jump off the stage, crowd surf kind of excited. It was just kind of a sweet.
So what is? I mean,
I mean,
if winning
the only
Vegas,
thing that gets me that excited is hunting.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
fair. I was going to say because if winning an inside out shoot off in Vegas to win six figures isn't jump out into the crowd surfing, exciting. I don't know what else
It's
for it is, but
so I mean, I would say that it is, but I'm still so focused at that point that by the time like my time frame of being jump off the thing excited,
right,
by the time that wears off, the focus is still I'm still focused on stuff.
right,
So I mean, I wouldn't they kind of overlap to where it's just a
right.
I don't know, I'm not a super excited person, I guess. I get
So
excited about stuff, but
yeah, so,
not quite
so
the same.
you don't get that time frame between releasing an arrow on a big buck or a bull elk and the time it takes to finally retrieve it. You don't get that time frame in this situation. It's almost instant. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. That
Yeah.
plus I saw who was sitting down in the VIP. Jumping down there to crowd surf probably wouldn't have worked good for you. I'm
No, no. I don't
no.
know if I could have made well, I probably could have made it to the edge of the chairs, but
So, yeah, woo, thud. That would have been
yeah, pretty much.
right. And so, so you're only 18, and I mean, I realize that everybody right now is making comparisons to, you know, young folks. Jesse Broadwater won his first one at 16, and stuff like that. And so we've talked about this many times before, so let's just go ahead and hit on it right now. I know we're bumping up against 55 minutes, folks, but this one's going to be long. It's not going to be Joe Rogan long, but it's going to be long. Um,
Yeah.
and so you're going to be finishing school this year, which is something that you and I have been talking about now on the podcast for 4 years,
Yep.
which is wild. So you're almost an old man in this sport. And so talk a little bit about, school's going to be ending. We've talked about the contract thing. Everybody has seen you. I mean, look, man, you shot a different bow at the Rushmore Rumble and railed with it. You've shot other bows and won and railed with them. You're currently shooting the Matthews title, 38. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And so obviously you don't need to divulge contract negotiations and such and what have yous. But you graduate here in 2 months. What does the official pro Bodie plan look like?
And just get to pick up another. My main thing is I just want to pick up another circuit. I want to go shoot the ASAs. They look like fun. Everybody enjoys them. People from around the world come to shoot them.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of my plan, just to get to pick up another circuit, and um, I'll definitely be picking up more tournaments. I don't want to completely hammer myself every weekend with having to travel, do stuff like that. Like I definitely want to still have time to live. I want to
Right.
have time to hunt, and the big thing is I want to have time to get to go teach as well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean that's really the main thing is I'm definitely going to be picking up more tournaments, but I don't want to completely overload myself at the same time. I want to be able to have all my certain tournaments that I'm for sure going to be going to, but I also want to be be able to pick and choose some of the other
Right.
ones that I would like to do.
Oh, and I mean that's savvy, dude. I mean, I can remember years, it was over a decade ago, but the Stefan Hansens and Paul Tedfords, and there was a bunch of guys here 12 plus years ago thought they had to hit every tournament possible, and they were hitting like 25 a year. It was wild.
That sounds terrible.
And it burns you out. It
hmm
it literally burns you out. I mean, Stefan's 2016 will probably be one of the most epic years ever. He won a bunch of stuff, and literally he would tell me stories how he would drive down the freeway, take the off ramp. His parents would meet him with a new bag of clothes, and he would just trade clothes and then go back to the airport. And I'm like, now he doesn't do
Yeah,
that now, of course, but um, so with that being said, graduating here in a couple months, um, will you be signing a bow contract this year, or are you going to wait till the off season and do it in the winter?
I would like to do it this year. I mean, I've kind of made my decision on everything. I know that it was like this indoor season. I wanted to be like the indoor season that I performed, and I hadn't. I mean, I'd shot Rushmore and I'd won that one, but I hadn't really won anything else or even got to be in shoot offs. Well, besides Chicago, but I hadn't done like spectacular in anything except for shot some decent scores, stuff like that. But I would say I put too much pressure on myself this indoor season
Right.
to perform um, because of contract stuff. I wanted to like show that I still got it, stuff like that, which I know that I mean I realize that everybody else thinks I do. Um, but I mean I hold myself to such a high standard that I expect to do perfect everywhere I go.
Right.
So it's tougher when I'm hold myself to that standard because
Right.
it's honestly it's impossible to do. I mean, I'm human. You can only do so much at a time.
Right.
Um,
But there's also levels to that.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I can consistently win a couple tournaments a year. For sure. I would like to. I think I'm pretty indoors, kind of where I shine the most. But I think that I can. I'm sure I can learn ASA pretty quickly. I can shoot field well.
You've done pretty
Um,
good field too. I was going to say, yeah, field.
yeah. I've shot some pretty stupid field scores.
Yeah. And you will have
One
you will have a handful of Reading titles by the time your career's done.
I
Like,
better.
like
Yeah, it's like all I shoot around here. I got one this weekend. I'm gonna be setting a bow up for as soon as I get off the horn with you here.
nice.
But yeah, I mean, it's just tough because I hold myself to such a high standard that I almost feel like I'm not performing at a level that I once was. Um, like I would say the best shooting year that I had was in like 2021 for 30x shooting.
Right.
But I would also, but looking back, I shot way more then. I mean, I was shooting a couple games a day every single day.
Right.
This year, I didn't shoot as much. Um, I mean, I'm not saying I never shot. Like I shot when I felt that I needed to, and I kind of have my way of maintaining once I find what I like.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, looking back, I've almost had more consistent shooting years in practice, but
Right.
I I definitely perform better now. I'm to the point where I don't know how much better that I can get. I would say that I can only get more consistent, but to
Absolutely.
get more consistent than I am is almost impossible in some of the things. I mean, because a couple years ago I put a ton of time in the field. And I was averaging 106 X's every time.
That's that's out of
I
100.
never
That's out of 112 folks.
Yeah, best one that I shot was 109. Worst one that I shot was 100 for a summer for a couple months.
Damn.
Um, yeah, I mean that was now I'm kind of finding more of the balance of life between archery and life because if I stayed at I mean, I hear these stories of these guys who were amazing a long time ago,
Right.
and I hear stories of they just like never stopped shooting their bow, and I'm looking now and they're like, yeah, you're burnt out, you don't even shoot anymore.
Right.
So like right now, I'm just finding that balance to where I can still love archery and live at the same time to where I don't get burnt out. Because I mean, I think that's a big thing. Um, I'm kind of figuring out how much effort I need to put in to be at the level that I want to be at. Um, I know that I can shoot 24/7 constantly, and I'll feel really good about myself, but I also get bored instantly of it.
Right. 100%.
So, I mean, that's like I said, just kind of trying to find the balance of every time or of everything of life. Like I love to drive. I go drive up in the woods and go do random stuff in my vehicle all the time. I
Right.
love to do that, but I also make sure I shoot stuff like that. So I'm gonna be, like I said, I'm gonna be teaching a fair bit with shot IQ stuff, and I want to be able to bring in where he teaches the mental and I teach the physical side of it because I feel like I can teach that fairly well with a good background on it.
Right.
Um,
100%.
I would love to get to do that stuff. I really like to teach people. I just also want to find something that I can teach from me as well
Sure.
because I
Absolutely.
enjoy it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this before we transition over to gear. So you said that you have such high expectations for yourself that sometimes you put those expectations onto yourself to perform at such a high level that adds something. So what happens in your head when you go into a shoot and you have put that sort of pressure on yourself above and beyond normal?
Yeah, I mean it can come in different ways. It can come in nerves. Like this is the shoots leading up to the Vegas shoot and the first day at the Vegas shoot were some of the more nervous that I've had in the last couple of years. Um, I can definitely say that,
Right.
but it's more of just coming into it with confidence.
Right.
I came into some of the shoots this year with the lowest confidence I've had in a long time. Um, like going into Chicago, that one was because I was sick,
Right.
which sucked. Where I just had like zero strength and just kind of dealt with what I had to deal with.
You had Nathan for like
Uh,
days, right?
a couple days before that, hadn't eaten for 4 days, and then drove to Idaho, did a shoot, drove back. That was it was fun, but it was rough.
Right.
Um, Kind of proved to myself that I can still shoot okay scores when I can barely even hold my bow up. Like
Right.
drawing my bow back was rough. Drawing 60 pounds or like 58 pounds back was rough.
Bam.
Like I felt just zero strength, and then I was still just trying to recoup from that because I just didn't really have the strength to build strength back yet.
Right.
So that I mean that was a big part of it.
Yeah. So let
But
me ask you this before we start talking about your rig. It's the E word, and most of us think, like when you're shooting on in a room, and everybody gets nervous because they think everybody's watching them when nobody's watching them.
yeah.
Expectations
Hmm.
for you, most people are watching you,
Yeah.
and when you walk in,
But I would say I enjoy that.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
that's the question is when you walk in the door, people have an expectation that you are going to do Bodie things and you're
Hmm.
going to shoot Bodie level scores and you're
Yeah.
going to have Bodie level target faces and
Hmm.
you're going to do Bodie shit. And
Yeah.
so and you kind of said you love it, which is a great answer, but talk to us a little bit about that expectation of you know, regardless of, you know, what venue it is, people basically expect you to win.
Yeah. I mean, still, what people expect of me and what I expect of myself are not even close to the same thing. My expectations are it's a one hole target. Like not I mean, it's an all inside out target is my expectations.
Right.
I mean, people I would say I shot some clean targets at Vegas. Um, they weren't what I wanted.
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna be happy with it until it physically can't get any better.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, people's like expectations don't really bother me because they're not even close to what mine are for myself.
That's fair. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. So all right, so let's talk bows and arrows and everything. Folks,
Okay.
this is going to be specific to his indoor setup that he just won Vegas with. No, I don't think it's for sale, although everything is for sale.
For
Um,
the right price, I'd sell it.
that's what I'm saying. Like it's not for sale, but it's for sale.
But it could be. Yeah.
Exactly. So first of all, it is the Title 38,
Yep.
correct?
The Gen 2.
Gen 2. Okay.
Yep.
So let's keep focused on the bow there for a second. What mods are you running on this rig?
The 70%, 65 pound at 27.
At 27 inches? Okay, I thought you
Well, it doesn't measure out to 27, but those are the mods that I got to fit.
okay. Oh, okay. So you've been doing some tinkering. Okay, that totally makes sense. And so what is your draw weight
62 and a half.
and your holding weight? Now, obviously, folks, he said he's done some tinkering. So if you math and it's not exactly what he said, that's normal.
Yeah. 17 and a half.
Okay. And is that the same holding weight and stuff you'll shoot outdoors, or do you bump everything up?
Yeah, this will be the same everything that I'll run for outdoors.
Okay. And cam timing, how do you like to run your top ahead, bottom ahead, even? What's your pleasure there?
Uh, typically even. Every now and then I'll run almost bottom ahead just a hair to kind of give a little bit of sponge to bring the bow up just a smidge.
Okay.
But typically even.
And this weekend in Vegas,
It was even.
even. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so you know, when we start talking about that, let's stick to the next facet of that, which would be strings and cables. What strings and cables I mean, obviously right now, folks, he's not under contract with Matthews. So if you know, you know, what strings you running right about meow?
A match, just stock strings and
Oh,
cables.
you're running the Matthews ones already.
Yeah.
Okay. Copy that. And what is your preferred center serving size, or do you just go off feel of the knock?
I just go field and knock
For indoors, what knock do you run?
the biter hunter.
Do you run that same knock in the 23s and the 27s?
I have the biter hunter pins on those, but yeah, pretty
Okay.
much the same fit.
All right. I see the cam of your bow right there. Do you have an arrow with you?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Show us how that, not obviously in the D loop would probably not work, but above or below the loop, knock that arrow and show us how that fits, slides up and down and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
Oh shit.
I want it to be like
Looped. That's
as
looped.
long as it mostly stays on the string, I'm pretty happy with it.
I was going to say, if you turn that upside down, would that even stay on the string?
Probably. You want me to try it?
Sure. For
All
those
right.
of you listening, not watching, Bodie likes a very loose knock on his indoor rig. And I mean
I could
loose.
probably get it to pop off. No, it stays on
It
a
stays
little
on.
bit. It
Not
stays on.
very, yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
Bodie,
not by much.
yeah, not by a lot. So he likes a very loose knock fit on his indoor knocks. Do you like that same knock fit outdoors?
Yeah, I run the same knock fit at all times.
Okay.
Then
Awesome.
just leave just a hair of room in the D loop.
Right. So there's no pinch.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things that, a lot of people have really been turned on to these days is D-loop location for hold. I generally will measure from axle to axle and put my loop eighth of an inch or so. And when I say loop, folks, I measure, just me personally. Everybody you can do it different. I don't really care. I measure off wherever the bottom of the knock is.
Hmm.
So it's consistent, whether you have just a loop or whether you use a bottom knock set or double knock sets, or I don't really care. The bottom of the knock is always the bottom of the knock. So, um, can you measure, or have you measured from axle to axle and figured out where your loop is in between those things?
It was a quarter inch above center.
Quarter inch. Okay, that's 316. Yeah, that's not bad. And is that something that is universal for you, or is that just something that you just kind of play around with it until it holds how you want?
It's just something that I've played around with. This is kind of the first one that I've looked at it.
Okay. I
I
was
I like for me, I would just run either the arrow through the middle of the burger holes or just over middle of the burger holes.
right.
That's kind of what I base everything off of is the burger hole and where the arrow runs through it at.
Okay. And so you with that being said, obviously your arrow rest is going to be the final determining factor for that. So when you first set up a bow, do you set up your rest through the hole and then set your loop to that and then just assume it's just a little, it's above center in that regard, or what's your standard operating procedure there?
Yeah, I mean just kind of when it's in the press, get it lined up on the rest and then figure out where to run through the middle and then put the D loop on there.
Okay. What launcher blade? Now this is indoor, folks. Might not change for outdoors, but for the
It
context
will.
conversation, right? What launcher blade are you running indoors?
The standard 10
Standard 10. And you're running the AAE Freak Show, yes?
Freak Show QD.
Okay. Um, what sort of a blade angle? Are you a low blade angle guy or are you a high blade angle guy?
I've done both. I'm running fairly low compared to what I have in the past right now,
Okay.
which just playing with it this indoor season is kind of where I've got my highs and lows to be mitigated the most.
Okay.
But it's at like 28, 29 right now, so just under 30.
Okay. So for those of you that are running the Freak Show Rest with the sling blade on there, you are probably just ahead of the first line to the left as you lower the
Yeah.
blade. Okay. Which is, I mean, so let me ask you this. We are going to get into the arrow next, and I know that you went down in point weight pretty significantly here recently.
Yeah.
Did did the angle of the launcher blade have to change for that at all, or did taking off that weight actually help with the highs and lows you were talking about?
I mainly just got more forgiveness out of it, taking the point weight off.
Okay, because obviously a 29-degree blade angle is pretty low, and so if
Yeah.
how much not to get ahead of ourselves, but how much weight did you take off the nose of your arrow?
75.
You took 75 grains off out of the point.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, that much more grain weight on the front of the arrow could definitely affect the blade angle. Like
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. Um, so you said you're running the biter hunter on that. So let's talk about this arrow a little bit. You've shot carbons, you've shot aluminums. I believe your first Vegas victory was with a carbon as well, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So so let's talk about that. What arrow did you shoot this weekend?
So Super Drive 27, cut carbon to carbon is like 25 and 7/8, just under 26, I think.
Okay.
And then I'm running four hybrid 26s with a bunch of helical in the back.
Okay.
Um, One, there's an arrow build that I kind of can always go to and it shoots decent for me, which is what I did. Because after shooting Chicago, I kind of lost all confidence in that setup and just wanted to start over.
Right.
And I really like carbons. I can cut them so short that I don't have to worry about straightness at like a 33-inch arrow or 31-inch arrow or anything.
Right.
So for me, I've when I can run carbons, I will. I feel like when I can get carbon shooting really well, they shoot really well.
Hmm.
So my arrow build I kind of always just can throw together and it'll shoot good enough as for me is four hybrid 26s and 250 in the front, cut pretty short.
Right.
So I had that shooting really good out of a Title 38 in the beginning of the year and kind of just tried to mimic it and put it together, and it shot really well for me. I shot 38, 30x and a 28x in competition with it. I was pretty happy with it, but just knew that I wanted a little bit more out of it.
Right.
So I had some 175s and thought I would try them and shot them and shot just as tight with them, but a little bit more forgiving. So I was able to get that extra X or two that I was kind of looking for out of it.
Right.
And that seemed to work pretty well for me.
All right. That's yeah. So let's talk about the veins a little bit. And this
Yeah.
part, some of y'all's heads going to explode. For those of us that, have done this for a while, it's no great surprise to us, but you're running four 26s
Yep.
and you are getting, you folks ready for this? You're driving, hold on to the steering wheel with both hands. If you have liquid, if you're drinking right now, any sort of liquid beverage, swallow it before I say this. You're getting all kind of contact.
Yeah.
You're getting cable contact. You're getting blade contact. Talk us through that scenario.
Yeah. So uh both times I've won Vegas, I was having cable contact and bad blade contact. This one's probably almost worse. My blades are just barely nicking my cable guard, just a hair. And then, huh?
Yeah, veins. I think you said blades.
Oh, sorry. My veins are just nicking my cable guard. And then my veins are hitting on both left and right side of my blade.
So are the veins hitting the cable guard apparatus itself or the actual cable?
Cable guard.
It's hitting the actual roller part.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. And so I will assume for the sake of argument that you at least, powdered this and have them all hitting the exact same.
Sure.
Oh my God. Okay.
They're
So,
they're turned pretty much the same.
okay. So they're at least indexed super, super close. So you are getting as
Yeah.
about as much of the same contact as you're going to get. Now,
Pretty close.
pretty close, right? Well, close enough to shoot a bunch of arrows into the same hole. So
Yeah.
you got that going for you. And I know for you listening, you're like, wait a second. How can you have contact and say, well, because you can, period. You the notion you can have zero vein contact is just not true. You just have to have as close to the same contact because if it's just like anything else in the mechanism, if it's doing the same thing the same way every time, well, you can tune to that, you can sight into that, and then you'll go shoot a bunch of arrows into the same hole and win Vegas like Bodie did. You won't.
Yeah.
But it works for Bodie. And so did you try that same arrow with a with three 4-inch veins on it just to compare?
I did, yeah. It didn't shoot as well.
Okay. Too much on the back, you think?
I
What
I
what
don't know.
did you do? Just get a little looser or what?
It just didn't shoot. Yeah, I would say it probably just got a little bit looser.
Okay. Um, so when folks are going to inevitably ask you about the fact that you just sent shot pipes for a whole afternoon and whole weekend in Vegas. By the way, congratulations on 89 X's. I guess the question is
Thank you.
why did you miss one?
It broke like mid-9 low and shot like a three-quarter shaft 10. So I was like, I'll take it, I guess. It's better than where it broke.
That's true, but it still didn't answer the question.
I want to shoot 90 next year. I didn't
Oh,
feel like doing it this year.
oh, there you go. See, perfect
Yeah.
answer. There we go. You're investing into the long-term return. I get it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what's your standard answer going to be to people that listen to this and go, this kid just shot 89 X's and the one he missed was his fault. And then he comes into the shoot off and pipes inside outs with vein contact. What's your answer going to be to that? Because people are going to ask.
Yeah, main thing is just if it shoots, it shoots. It
Right.
seemed to shoot.
You think?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's absolutely wild. And so how much did you ever play or did you figure out a recipe that works on arrow length?
not. I mean, I don't really have any certain recipes. I used to think that I did, but definitely debunked it. I mean, maybe if I could get nothing else to work, I could go back to it to try it.
Right.
But I mean, for me, I just think a shorter arrow looks cooler. Ugly when there's a bunch of arrows sticking out the front.
I'll
So
I'll keep that in mind. Although,
yeah,
yeah, it's not going to be a thing. But um,
no,
so okay, so let's talk about kind of your peep to sight apparatus here. What size housing are you running indoors?
31 millimeter AVX 31
AVX 31. What power lens?
5 power.
5 power. Now, we talked about this on the last podcast, and you told us you and your dad's scientific method of using a leather punch to punch out dots out of duct tape. Um,
Yep,
is that still rolling?
yep, still rolling strong.
And how so with a 5 power lens, you probably, I guess indoors you wouldn't really care what your peep to scope measurement is, but probably short given you're only 27-inch draw length. But when
Probably
through, yeah, through a 5 power lens, when looking at a Vegas spot through your peep, how much of the 10 ring does that piece of duct tape cover?
a little bit less than the 10 ring.
A little bit less than the
Probably 2/3 of the 10 ring.
Okay, so it's probably in the 60, 70 thou range.
Yeah,
Okay. And now, obviously, transitioning to outside, is that something that you're going to maintain, or are you going to go to a pin, or what's the plan?
I'll go to a 19 pin, a 19 green pin.
Okay. Well, I mean, especially if you're going to start shooting ASAs, which that probably won't be this year, right?
No, I don't think I'll have time for it this year.
Okay.
I got a lot of stuff planned. I don't think I'll have time to throw in an ASA.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So,
next year I'll make sure I have them in my schedule.
right. And then, so have you given any forethought whatsoever to about the, because let's be honest here, really the only thing you're going to have to change is going to be probably what your arrow build is and
Yeah.
your scope housing and lens, or at least
hmm
your aiming apparatus. What if any thought have you given to what you think might work for you for 3D?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably go to a little bit bigger scope, and like that's what everybody does. And then I really don't want to have to deal with too much on it. Like I hate to rely on electronics for stuff.
Right.
So I would really like to keep running a 19 thou pin. So I would like to run a 6 power with a 19.
Hmm.
I'll have to see what that looks like on them. I'll probably get a couple of targets and kind of really get to play with it. But I'll definitely put a clarifier in, start to play with that stuff. Still don't run one of those.
Well,
So
with your young 18-year-old eyes, do you think you'll need one?
I'm sure, yeah.
Okay.
Um, I mean, all the 3D I shoot, I always shoot at 12s and stuff just to try it. And I'm doing that with a 5 pin hunting bow with no lens. So, I mean, I don't think it'll be too terribly bad.
Right.
Um, I would even like to shoot like a 10 thou pin with no lens on it, so I don't have to run a fiber because sometimes I can see the rings on the targets at like 40 some yards.
Old school Levi
But
Morgan. He used to shoot I think a 19 thou with no lens for years.
yeah, I mean, I haven't shot a lot of ASA, but I've shot a lot of 3D. So, I mean, I'm good at picking out little spots and little blemishes. And I mean, it should just be easier if I have clear looking, uh, a clear looking lens. I mean, just
It
makes them look closer. So,
takes a lot of experience knowing the targets for that. But so are you going to use some of this Vegas money to buy a whole range or what?
no, no, I
He
don't,
says no.
I got to get it first.
Right.
But yeah, thinking about trying to figure out what I want to get. And I'm sure I'll getting at least one forerunner thing. which will be expensive. But yeah, think
So,
about maybe getting a truck,
so
which would be good.
for those of you that don't follow Bodie on the Instagrams, he has himself a built forerunner that he likes to go play in the mud and the snow and the sand and the mountains.
Anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. And so, what would you be putting on that thing it doesn't already have?
Long travel kit and new suspension.
Supercharger?
No, I'm gonna just, I mean, possibly, but not, that's not first.
Don't be a sissy. More power is better.
Yeah, yeah, but I sit on rev limiter a lot in the snow. I don't need to blow it up quite yet.
This is true. This is true. So you said you might buy another truck. What's wrong with the Forerunner? Or you just don't want to drive it daily?
I mean, I would have no problem driving it daily. Just it kind of gets annoying on the way to Montana.
Why?
I mean, gas mileage sucks. It'll
Those,
just kind of get worse. It doesn't like hills very much at all.
that's where the supercharger would help.
Yeah, but that just makes the gas mileage even worse as well.
This is true.
So, I mean, yeah, I also need something bigger to write off. And I'm not going to be like buying a house. Sure, some people tell me I need to start investing in properties, but I don't want to deal with that.
Well, I mean,
I know it'd be a good thing to do, but I'm not going to pay somebody to deal with it, and I don't want to deal with it quite yet. Maybe long time in the future, I can pull a page and start buying a bunch of houses, but not quite yet. I don't make her money.
well, you can always buy property.
Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah, I can.
maybe you can start stockpiling acreage out there in Montana next to the family spot.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I would like to, but I'll I'm definitely gonna put most of it away. But I have a little bit of fun money too. So
Sure.
I would like to get a truck though, just because it'd be nice to have. Um,
You
I've
gonna
been
get?
looking at like a
Are you gonna get a real one or a gas one?
gas one.
Hmm.
I would like to get a real one, but I like to add stuff onto vehicles. I don't like to work on them, if
Right.
that makes sense. So I was gonna get a 2019 Tundra is what I'm looking at right now,
Oh, there you go.
but I'll wait till the money rolls in for that one
Oh,
because sometimes last time I won Vegas it took like 5 months to get money or whatever it was.
oh, damn.
Yeah, so
Well, I'm sure Matthew's check will clear just fine, and I know that Bruce and them get those things rolling out. But hey, man, I really appreciate spending some time with us today. I know that you know coming back off a win like this, I know that you get right back after it. But it's always good talking to you. That was spectacular to see.
thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, look, next year I'm sure Bruce is going to come back with a set schedule for that. I don't think he's going to do random inside outs at will. Um,
I think it'd be good to do after 15 ends. After 15 ends, we can go to inside out.
I was thinking 10 or 15. I was thinking originally I'm like a whole round. Do a whole round, 10 ends,
I
and
think 15's better.
you do?
Just just like a lot of people can shoot a 30x,
No, they
but
can't.
getting them to
Oh,
that
oh,
next little.
no, they can't. No, they can't.
Well, this year a lot of people shot a 30x, and then after that,
Yeah. A lot of
I
people.
think I think 15's kind of the breaking point for most people.
Okay. Well,
For most people, the next step, I think 15's a good breaking point.
okay. Well, I've never done it, so I'd take your word for it. I think it's probably
Yeah,
just a matter of time, how long it takes.
yeah,
I mean, look, the 10 ends in a shoot off are way quicker than 10 ends in a tournament.
that's for sure. Yeah,
So I guess the idea would be watch and see how long it takes to do 15 ends and time it. Because that's one thing that folks always, don't. You saw what the event, what the Planet Hollywood live theater was doing to us there at the end. They're like, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up on out of here.
yeah.
Oh,
They weren't overly great about it
yeah. Well, I
at
don't know if
all.
they have their cleanup crew come in. I don't know what the deal was, but those kinds of places, they're not like South Point or Louisville, where when the shoot's done, you can just kind of chill. And those places are ran a little different. Um,
Just a little bit. Yeah.
hence the security. But anyway,
Hmm.
and let everybody out there know where they can follow Bodie Turner on the World Wide Webs.
Instagram, Bodie_Turner, BODIE,
You ever going to start
instead of,
a Facebook?
huh?
You ever going to start a Facebook?
Maybe at some point, but not quite.
That's funny. And of course, got to give a shout out to Joel and your mom over there at Shot IQ. Where can folks go find them?
Yeah, my dad is, I can't even, he changed his username on Instagram. If you look up Joel Turner, you'll find it.
Right.
And then my mom's is Mama Shot IQ on Instagram,
There you go. And the website, just straight up shotiq.com.
shotiq.com.
There you go. All right, everybody. That's Bodie Turner. He is your 2025 Vegas champion after easily one of the coolest shoot offs we've seen there. And let me cook on this for a second. And I'm going to do a whole podcast tomorrow about a whole bunch of stuff by myself. But here's something I want you to marinate on when it comes to the specific shoot off thing here. As we saw in the Rushmore Rumble and other, as the shoot off progresses past 10 to 15 ends, yes, there's a lot of excitement there, but it also tends the external excitement for people at home, people in the audience, etc., depending on commentary, um, tends to plateau a little bit. And so what Bruce did by having them go to inside outs gave the excitement a huge bump. So it literally gave it a shot. It got everybody excited again, shooters included, I guarantee it. And so the framework of what Bruce did with the inside outs in Vegas is righteous. And we kind of are going to need something like that because as we try to show this sport to more people outside of the sport, what Bodie and those guys, Bodie and Nico and Chris and them, what they did was not normal. And so when you have people at their caliber shooting X's for that long, we need to give it a bump of the excitement level for the shooters, for the audience, and for people watching at home. So whether it's 10 or 15 ends and then straight to inside out scoring, I'm all for it. I think Bodie's observation of not one arrow, it's not a one arrow thing. This is not a closest to center thing. I hadn't even thought of that shit. That was a magnificent observation. And so as long as they stay arrow for arrow, end for end, the inside out scoring will actually make that's going to be a huge bump in the excitement in the whole 9 yards. Now, will the NFAA make a rule you can only shoot the same size arrow? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. But absolutely fantastic shooting from Bodie. Congratulations to Nico Girard as well. That was absolutely fantastic. The 90X record is still there to be had. I know that Bodie's going to be chasing after that thing super hard next year. So yeah, I'm not going to say he can't do it. I mean, the only person that prevented him from doing it this year was him. So at least I have that to make fun of him for. So
Yeah.
you got to have something. But anyway, that's going to be it for the podcast, folks. We appreciate you. I am doing a podcast with Grant Solutioner later this week. I'm trying to get a hold of the young lady that won women's, but she ain't got no social media. Steve Anderson doesn't even have her number. Paige didn't even have her number. And if you know Paige, that is something. She is like a Rolodex. So anyway, that's going to be it, everybody. Hope everybody's driving safe out there. If you still have any winter conditions in your area, please drive safe. You guys know the drill. We want to hear from you, not about you. And as always, love, peace, and chicken grease.